UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. In my opinion, this is a coming great deception. But when we go up, they come down. When we go up, they show up. We'll see what happens. Our guest today, Ron James, we go back a while, and great to have him on the show, and we'll bring him in. But first, a word from our very trusted sponsor. You probably think your 401k is safe, that it's growing, that it'll be enough for your retirement. But what if it's not? Here's the truth, folks. Your 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was created in a corporate boardroom to shift retirement costs and investment risks onto you. Designed to keep your money trapped, exposed to Wall Street crashes, inflation, and uncertainty you can't control. Until now. Folks, Americans are taking back control by turning to real assets like gold. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands protect your future by converting part of their retirement savings into physical gold. Talk to Noble Gold today and learn how safe and easy it is to roll over your 401k into a tax-advantaged gold IRA without penalties or headaches. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit, including a step-by-step guide to get started. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. It's time to get your money out of the danger zone and into something real. And folks, get rewarded for getting started. Open a qualified account at noblegoldinvestments.com, and Noble Gold will send you 2 5-ounce Silver America, the beautiful coins free. Once again, folks, noblegoldinvestments.com. Hey, Ron, good to see you, and thanks for coming on the show. It's been a while.
LA, it has been a while, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, the pleasure's all mine, but you've got a new film coming out. Let's just jump right into it. So what is the sequel about? Where, I mean, you know, I've watched Accidental Truth, and I thought it was great, and I know you won a bunch of awards for it, and yet in Congress we see this, let me just start there, we see this cat and mouse game, nothing gets done, the needle never moves, you know, you get Nancy Mace, I want one of the bodies brought here. I mean, this thing is buried, in my opinion, this thing is buried so deep, they could care less, you know, whether you're a congressman, a senator, a president of the United States. This thing is buried, man, since Roswell, and it's been like that. So what are your thoughts?
Well, Accidental Truth Next picks up where Accidental Truth left off. The paper trail through Washington, D.C., where, as you just mentioned, we have gone, do you realize, L.A., it's been nearly a decade since these guys rolled out the stuff in 2017 with Lou Elizondo and the Tex.
I know.
They've gotten a decade out of us of Dog and Pony Show. And so we when I first set out to make the next sequel to Accidental Truth, it was really going to just be a documentary following all the stuff that's unfolded in Washington, D.C. between the time the movie came out and the time I turned it into the distributor. And there is some of that at the very beginning because historically I have to just put it into the film. But at the end of the day, you know, and about 30 minutes into the film, it's literally nails down a chalkboard and pointing out that we're just hearing the same thing. And really the conclusion that I'm coming to is that they're going to drag this out forever. And whoever got eyeballs on Washington, D.C., that's the wrong place to look.
I agree. You know, I hold to the position that there's going to be a nuclear event, and that's when they're going to show up. It has nothing to do, they could care whether, you know, whether treaties were made or whatever. They're in control, in my opinion. They are absolutely in control. And there's going to be a nuclear event, and that triggers everything because it'll create the greatest fear. Oh my God, we're all going to die. Oh. And that's when the so-called Space Brothers, you know, reappear. Let me ask you this. We've seen the back and forth. And by the way, I read Luis Elizalde's book. I thought it was fantastic. Nothing new.
Right.
You know, I mean, we actually went to the debris field. We have 2 films on Roswell. Shameless plug. There's a piece of a debris right there. And we had it tested at what used to be Seal Lab. I mean, we actually show, you know, digging it out of the ground. The metal detector goes off and we're digging down, and next thing you know, it's in the palm of my hand, and there it is on my desk.
I mean, that's funny. So you showed me yours, so I'm showing you mine.
There you go. There you go.
It's really a front recovery case. It's in the film. But the fact of the matter is there used to be a time when these agencies that are responsible for scooping this stuff up and making sure that it never makes it into the public, they're just not able to get it all. And we're getting our hands on this stuff and we're getting it tested and it's coming back anomalous. And there's, it's like, oh, say, got some splaining to do.
Yeah, big time. This will change everything, because once the public finds out that our government has been lying to us since Roswell, it's over 70 years now. Now what? I mean, how do you backpedal from that? You know, and who do I sound at?
I feel sorry for these guys. They're between a rock and a hard
I
place.
agree.
Yeah, you have the guys like Lou and Hal put off, and all of the usual suspects that are front facing. They could tell us, but they'd have to kill us. And these poor guys, they're men in a box. LA, can you imagine what it would be like to have to live your life having information that you've been given that's potentially civilization changing, and because of the oaths you made and the allegiances you swore, you can't talk about it, and you could lose everything by coming forward. I would hate to be in that position. In fact, every time I get pulled into a room, and it happens a lot, where somebody of that stature says, "Hey, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't share it with the public." I'm like, "Yeah, don't tell me.
Don't tell me. I don't want to know. No.
I'm going to tell everybody. I don't want to harbor you. I don't want to live with your secrets." But can you imagine what that must be like? So there's a lot of these guys that are just living with that, and we tend to demonize them and villainize them, and sometimes they don't deserve it.
What I find interesting is the push and pull that we see. So you get guys like Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, David Grush, Gallaudet, and others. I mean, the whole cast of characters, and you've interviewed them. They won't talk to me, but that's another story. But you get the whistleblowers coming out. We've got something. We've got retrieved bodies. We've got crashed material. Blah blah blah. And then you got the other guys who come up. We have absolutely no evidence of any type of, and they can say that because they've never seen anything. Tell us about this push and pull, and between parts of the government and the whistleblowers. I mean, who's telling the truth? What's going on here?
Well, you know what it is that there are two factions within, and we say government, or we could say private industry. I like to say the managers of the information, because these guys are the true people who understand the whole picture. A, there's not that many of them, and B, they are buried so deep that we are never going to know their names. They're interface with the private industry.
Yeah.
They're deep inside of government. They're free from any kind of accountability to the body politic or even to the Pentagon. These are the guys that have been, assigned the secrecy. And that was a decision that was made back in the 40s, maybe even before that society just wasn't going to be given this information. But now they're up against the fact that we have evolving technology. We have events that are possibly on the horizon that are going to blow the lid off this whole thing in a way that can't be denied. And so now they're on their back feet trying to figure out, well, how do we prepare the public? How do we admit something without admitting literally the crimes against humanity that we've been committing ever since we got this technology into our hands? And so what we've seen since 2017 is this attempt at disorganized rollout, and that blew up. In Accidental Truth, we called their bluff on what I call the new narrative, where they're trying to say nothing happened between Roswell and the government interest is new. We all know that's BS. And so Google it off of that. And so now they're like, okay, well, let's try a new narrative, and then we have to seize that. So we have all these guys coming forward telling these stories, but at the same time, we have the people down there that don't want this information out. So they're playing the counterbalance. That's why we have David Grush, but then we got this Wall Street Journal article about that, how literally the entire field of ufology is BS and it's all made up, which was a huge slap in the face.
It is.
So this is the Empire Strikes Back, LA. It's like these guys, they're willing to see a certain amount of information get out, but when it looks like it might be getting ahead of their skis, or we might be getting close to the deeper truth, then they're going to throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. Like they're going to hand Lou a fake picture and tell him to hold it up. And he, as a patriot and a sworn intel guy, is going to do as he's told. So, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing an internal battle manifest in the press and the media and the field.
Let me ask you this follow up to that or that great statement that you just made, and sort of unpack that what we're up against. So we've heard rumors of the Collins elite, and we've heard about the so-called white hats. What do you know? What do you know? What can you share?
Well, these different groups all get different monikers, and at the end of the day, we never know really who's involved. We never know the true names. Even Majestic 12, we don't know if there even was a Majestic 12. Sad, we know that there probably was, but we don't know if it was those guys. I've talked to people who say, yeah, there was a group of them, but they weren't about UFOs. So there's certainly groups, as you all know through the history of your work, that are secretly running things for better or for worse, and there's groups that decide what information we're going to get. And so, as far as specifics on the Collins Elite and these other groups, I just you get to a point where it's just information overload, and it's like, oh well, maybe it's Skull and Bones, maybe but yeah, we are being controlled and guided by a group of people, and this knowledge is part of what we're going to get or not get.
I've interviewed people like you, and I'm a student of body language like you are, as a filmmaker, as someone who's, you're always looking. You're looking for the eyes darting around or whatever, right? I mean, I've interviewed several generals, ex-generals, and they knew something. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy had seen the bodies from Roswell. There's no doubt. In one of our films on Roswell, we have Jim and Carolyn Rankin, and they were with Colonel Hill. He was OSS, the forerunner of the CIA. He was a professional interrogator, had 3 different degrees, and real smart guy. And the day after Roswell, sounds like Philip Corsell's book.
Yeah, sounds like his buddy.
Yeah, he flew in. They flew him into Roswell, and he tried to communicate. They were bodies. One of them was still alive. He tried to communicate with him. It's a deathbed affidavit that he says on the record, through Jim and Carolyn, but he died a month later after he spilled the beans, because you walk around and you're burdened down, just like Walter G. Haught's a perfect example. This affidavit is only to be opened after I die. It's on the internet. You can go look at it yourself. Walter G. Haught,
Yeah.
And he got in the Hangar 84. He was taken in the Hangar 84, saw the body, saw the craft. It's all there. So, and then you get, we've, like you, I've had all these people over the years. One of my favorites is this guy whose grandmother worked at Roswell, right, for forever, for 30 or 40 years. A month before she dies, he's in Roswell, and he's just giving her a tour around the old building, right? Because it's no longer there, not like it was in 47. And she goes, and he asks her jokingly, Grandma, so where did they put the bodies? And they're right by Hangar 84. And she goes, right there. And she points, and he thinks she's joking. She's not joking. And then he elaborates, I actually filmed them. And, he elaborates on it more. The bottom line is they can't keep lying forever, and it's like back to the push and pull, the white hats, the Collins elite. What are we looking at here? It's like, what are they waiting for crying out loud? It's 2025, it's not 47 anymore, it's not Roswell. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting, LA. You and I go back a long way, and a lot of your approach toward this field has been rooted in traditional spiritual and religious teachings, comparing to what's happening, as we see it today.
Right.
And there's a broad debate, and you talk about the Collins elite. There's a broad debate among people that are looking at this phenomenon, and there are people who say, absolutely, this is angelic, demonic, and that's just how it is, and they cling to that, and they won't let go, and they won't compromise where they're coming from. And then you have people that call that all nonsense. And I have always sought a common ground of, why does one have to be mutually exclusive of the other? And where I'm going with my work, and something that you're actually probably going to get a kick out of, is that we're coming full circle. These different phenomena, we've had different names for them over time, or we've had different ways of interpreting them, or we've had different ways of filtering them. But the mechanisms that are making these phenomena appear in our reality are consistent throughout history. and not what they are or how they come to us or how they represent themselves to us, but the nuts and bolts of illusionary reality and the mechanisms that make these things come in before us is all part of the same puzzle. And so, as we're trying to piece this stuff out, I'm finding this reconciliation between all these different people with all these different viewpoints is that people don't need to be clinging so hard to their interpretation of this stuff, because the truth of the matter is reality is subjective to individuals. We're all here on our own path to learn our own lessons. And these things are a tool in our evolution, I think, just as much as they're anything else. And so, the things that you've put forward, I've never disagreed with you. And what I'm finding is that we really are coming full circle in how we should be looking at this stuff.
There was and part of me agrees with you. I mean, I am in intellectual concrete. I'm the first to admit it. I'm completely biased. I'm in intellectual concrete. I'm not moving that needle. I've been in this too long. The abduction phenomenon, the cattle mutilation stuff. I mean, it's just like, and this is something from channeled information, which I heard this 50 years ago. So this is a little pamphlet we do. What is the truth? There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer. They are stopping the harmony of the Earth. This is channeled information. They're already explaining away the rapture of a church when they show up and all these people just disappear. I hope I'm one of them. So let me ask you this. Philip Corso.
You know what? Let me propose something to you.
Yeah.
Rapture, for lack of a better word, right. What you're describing, I sense that could happen, and neither side of that experience is going to really know that it happened. In other words, you could live in a reality where people were raptured off, but you're still going to see the placeholders of those people in this dark world that you're still stuck in. And then this other world where these people are raptured into, there's still going to be remnants. They're still going to see the world as it was. It's just going to be a brighter, more, just a better world. We're creating our own reality, and at some point, it's going to diverge, and we're going to live in the world that we've signed off on, no matter how you want to look at that through the spiritual lenses. And so I think that this whole idea of people just basically being pulled out of this realm and into another one is not far-fetched at all.
Well, I mean, we would cross swords here, and I would disagree with you that and the reason why I hold to the biblical prophetic narrative is because the thread of prophecy. I mean, there's no other book that has that thread of prophecy from Genesis to Revelation, calling out with great specificity events that haven't happened yet. And we can go back and look at the events that have happened and go, oh my gosh, somebody's outside of space and time. So, we can say, well, these people who leave, they're creating their own reality, or we can just say, that what was written will come to pass. It'll come to fruition, which of course is what I hold on to. But shifting gears, Philip Corso came out with a book a number of years ago, and he was lambasted by certain aspects, certain ufologists, and some very famous ones, and we will disparage some of those famous ones. Some of them are not here, but he was really lambasted. I read the book and I said, okay, there's some artistic liberty here, maybe. I thought he was telling the truth, 100%, and especially with the back engineering stuff. What are your thoughts on Corso, the back engineering? Have you included him in this upcoming film? Do you point back to that at all, or?
No, I've left Corso alone in these, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is we have plenty of evidence of back engineered materials without getting into the challenges that come with some of Corso's claims. But the other thing is, and this is something that's always bothered me about Corso, when he, and this is something probably not that many people know, when he first was trying to shop a book, okay, he was trying to shop a book called I Walked with Giants. And what that book was about is his experiences with, the pillars of the military and the pillars of politics, how he was like the Forrest Gump wandering through this world. And nobody wanted that book. And he was basically told, it's going to have to be something better than that. And that's when the day after Roswell sprung forth with the help of Bill Burns. And so it just makes you, the people that you'll go after Corso and say, well, the story that he's telling it's got a lot of holes in it. To me, that's just another hole. That this is a guy that had this amazing, distinguished career, and he wanted to tell the world about it. He wanted to leave a legacy. But my question has always been, where Corso's concerned, if the day after Roswell was the story he wanted to tell, then why did he spend so much time trying to tell a much different story that had nothing to do with UFOs? And so, it kind of puts me in I'm not challenging his credibility, but it kind of puts me in it asks me a question I have a hard time answering.
I got it. Hey, folks, we're going to go into a private mode here. This is something new. It's behind a paywall, so that will be it for this part of the interview. Ron James, folks. Ron, how do people watch the upcoming film? When will it be released?
Well, the first Accidental Truth, you can watch it on YouTube now. YouTube Movies picked it up, so I encourage everybody to watch it free. Accidental Truth next is coming out on, we don't have a release date, but it's going to come out sometime in fall, maybe about around the holiday.
Well, I'm going to have you back on for that. So that's it. We're going to put the next part of the interview behind our paywall. You can subscribe, and you'll be able to watch the interview. Thanks for watching. Hey, folks, L.A. Marzulli here. Thanks so much for coming to our YouTube channel. We're up around 239,000 subscribers, and many of you come here every single day, and we thank you for your support. There's a lot of free content here. We do a show every single day of the week. Not a lot of people do that. So here's the deal. There's a two-tier offering. So for $2.99 a month, you get stickers, you get some access, you get 10% off at the store. For $9.99 a month, which is basically 30 cents a day, you get a lot of extra bonuses. Plus, and we're going to start doing this, because we do a show every single day, we're going to start extending the time that I'm interviewing our guests. So most of it will be free, but there's always that unpublished back end where we kind of do a deep dive into some things that those of you who don't subscribe won't be able to see. So if you subscribe to the $9.99 per month, you'll get all the free content plus a lot of extra bonuses. It's a pretty cool deal. And you'll get the L.A. Marzulli magazine, the Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural Report. A lot of great authors. Mando Gonzalez is a regular contributor. Sonda Allison, our editor, is a great contributor. Karen Wilkinson, Vicki Joy Anderson, and others. So lots to consider there. And here's the deal. We do a show every day, 7 days a week. We're here on politics, prophecy with supernatural, of course, UFOs, on the trail of the Nephilim. It's all here. When you support us, you help keep us what we want to do. Get the word out to people. Because, folks, we're living in unprecedented times. We really are. And your contribution helps keep the lights on. And I'm not afraid to ask you for it. So check it out. $2.99, or the second tier is $9.99. Lots of cool stuff there. And I will thank you ahead of time for your support. Thanks so much.